What is up, YouTube? Zach here from Spearos Kitchen, and today I've got a breakdown tutorial for you guys. This is going to be the first of many. Today I'm going to be showing you how I break down a blackfin tuna. So I actually got this one out of my kayak the other day. I went out originally spearfishing, and I actually got a nice yellow jack that I'm going to have some recipes coming out soon. But my buddy met me out on his jet ski, and he wanted to go out and do some jigging for tuna. So I paddled out to a little bit deeper water and ended up coming back with this blackfin. It's not the biggest. It's kind of a typical size you get here in Florida. We've got some bigger jumbos running this time of year, but we haven't quite gotten into those yet. But I wanted to make this video to show you guys how I break down a blackfin tuna. I know there's more than one way to skin a cat, but I wanted to show you guys how I do it. So let's jump into it. All right, guys. So the first thing you're going to notice here is that we're indoors. I like to fillet pretty much all of my fish indoors unless I really can't help it. I like to be in a controlled environment. I don't like flies buzzing around and stuff like that. The second thing you're going to notice, the fish is already gutted. All the gills are taken out and it's already gutted. The third thing that I like to do is to make sure the fish is pretty dry. Obviously, if you're pulling it out of a cooler, it's going to be tough to make sure it's totally dry, but I like to try and pat it off with as many paper towels as possible before I start cutting. So let's go ahead and jump into the cuts. All right, guys, so the first thing I'm going to do, pretty much typical of most people you see filleting these fish, is just making a cut right here behind the pec fin, going up towards the head, trying to get as much of that meat as possible. One thing I will say is that we are going to be using the collars and the head for some different things. So there's really not going to be anything wasted on this fish as far as what we have here. Any of the meat that's left on the backbone, we're going to be scraping off the bone. And any of the head meat and stuff like that is all going to go into the stock. So we're going to be utilizing pretty much everything. So first thing, like I said, cut right up here all the way to the head. All right, so the second cut I'm going to do, because the fish is already facing me, I'm actually just going to outline it from the bottom side here. So I'm going to come up pretty much right behind, or right in front of this last fin, and just work my way, not going too far in, but just right up the backbone there. And then I'm going to make one straight cut right there. All right, then I'm going to turn it around, and we're going to come right up this backbone again, starting from the back. And just outline it. You don't want to go too far in. I really just want to make sure I'm going right beneath the skin. And again, anything we don't get, we're going to get with a spoon when we hit it with the backbone. And right in this portion, you're going to get some thicker scales. And there's a couple different things you can do. You can either just power through it. You can take a serrated knife. You can take some scissors. I'll probably just take this serrated knife and just kind of power through it. Make sure you're just staying right on that backbone. All right, so now I'm going to come down from the head, and we're going to go make our first couple cuts down towards that center of the backbone here. Just trying to make sure we get as much as possible. And again, like I said, guys, anything we don't get, we're going to come back and get with the spoon. So it does not matter. So you're going to get to that backbone. And then I'll show you what we do on the other side. It may get hung up here at the top. just come in with a knife like that. But you just want to make sure that you're getting down right along that backbone right there. All right, so once we get to that center backbone, we're going to cut through all these bones that are right on that backbone, and we're going to go to the other side. There's two ways you can do this. You can either do it from the top, like I'm showing you right now, or you can come flip it back around and come in through the bottom first. Same kind of way that you did from the top, but just go right down. And then go ahead and cut through all of those pin bones right on the top. That should give you a decent fillet. And like I said, any of this extra meat that we see right along here, like all of this, we're going to come back in with a spoon and we're going to pick all that back up because we're going to use it probably for some sushi or something like that. But if you look at this fillet, we definitely got a good portion of the meat right on the fillet. All right, guys, so unfortunately my mic died in that last clip, so I'm going to have to do a voiceover for the remainder of these. But this one here, I'm just taking the spoon and we're just getting all of that meat that's left in between the bones. Like I think I said earlier in the video, it really doesn't matter how good you are at filleting. There's always going to be some meat left on the bones. And in this case, there's a lot of different things we can do with this. I'm probably going to make some sushi, or maybe just like a spicy tuna topper, something along those lines, for a recipe upcoming. So just getting in there. Spoon is the perfect tool for this application. And that's exactly what we're doing. So the next thing here that we're going to do is remove the left collar. As you can see, there's not a whole lot of meat on this one. This isn't a super fatty tuna. But there is enough on there that it is going to be worth taking off, marinating, and grilling or baking, whatever you like to do. This is a cut that is definitely worth putting some effort into doing something with for sure. So unlike snappers, groupers, where there's a little more precision that goes into getting those collars off. With the tuna, I've noticed it's pretty much just a straight cut. So if you just go up there right behind the gill plate and just cut down towards the center, it should just pop right off. And you may need to trim up a little bit if there's any bits of bloodline that you don't want on there. Anything that looks super unappetizing, maybe take off. All right, so the next piece here is kind of the debate between, do you remove the head before you fillet the other side? And sometimes I do, sometimes I don't. It really depends on the size of the fish. This particular one, if you look, it's laying kind of nicely, to be honest. It's not super offset. So for this one, I'm not going to remove the head beforehand. But that is something you can do if you want to. If you fast forward a little bit, I'll be removing the head, so you'll be able to see that as well. So same kind of deal as the other side. We just kind of want to outline the fish. Don't go in too deep yet. Just get a good first cut so that when we do go back in, we can make sure that we're hitting all the spots that we need to. And same thing, once you hit that patch of rougher scales, you've got the option. You can either power through it with your fillet knife, you can switch to a serrated like I'm doing here, or you can take a pair of kitchen shears. Um, Anything you want that you think will get through there. Just do be careful if you're using a fillet knife, because it's one of those things that can slip pretty easily. So turning the fish around here, and we're going to start from the bottom again. Like I said, just outlining. Tuna are fairly easy to kind of break through the bones and go cross over to the other side, which isn't ideal. So in my experience, it's important to do a little bit of an outline first. And we're going to flip it back around here. If you notice, I didn't even cut behind the pec fin yet. Usually that's the first thing I do. But honestly, it's one of those things, it really doesn't matter if you do it first or last. It still needs to be done at some point. So one thing I will note is that pec fin cut does kind of determine how big your collars are going to be. So you can kind of cheat if it's a smaller fish. If you do want to use the collars, you can take a little more of the fillet off with the collar. Your fillet is going to be smaller, but your collar will be bigger, so it's kind of up to you. So coming back down the top loin again, going back up, just trying to stay as close to those center bones as possible without breaking through. And eventually you'll get to the center where the pin bones are, and you've got the option either just power through them with your fillet, get out the serrated. I've seen people do it with the shears. It's really up to you. And then because we already outlined on the bottom, it should be pretty easy. We're not going to have to go through a whole lot of skin. Just go all the way down through the tail. And there is our second fillet right there. So on this side, we left a little more meat on the bone. Still not a crazy amount, but like I said, nothing gets wasted because we're going to scrape that off anyways. Obviously, you like to do a good fillet job and get as much off with the fillet as possible, but it's not the end of the world because we're going to go back in with the spoon and get it. And it might not seem like a lot on just one fish, but when you repeatedly do this on multiple fish, especially if you've got, say, 4 or 5 of these tuna, it's going to add up into a lot of meat, and it's definitely something you can make an appetizer out of, make a little extra something out of, whatever you want to do. It's definitely worth taking the time to do this. Then we're going to see if there's any extra bits on the other side that we left. And that is the meat. Like I said, it doesn't look like a lot, but that could be a sushi roll. All right, so now we're going to look at removing the right collar here. Same kind of deal, come in behind that gill plate and just cut up towards the head. Now this is also assuming, so when I caught this fish, I obviously bled it and gutted it. And usually I come straight up through the throat and split the collars. And the reason I like to do that, I don't like to disconnect the full collar, just to make sure, I'm keeping the fish whole. Obviously tuna don't have a size regulation in Florida, but for regulated species, if you're shooting anything close to the limit, I definitely like to make sure the fish is fully intact just in case you do get checked, so you don't have any issues there. So that collar was removed, and now the next thing I'm going to show you guys how to do is how I take off the head. So with one this small, I mean, you could probably just chop it off with a knife. It's not a huge deal, but I want to stress the importance of trying to get it in that groove on the backbone where it's just going to slide right through with no problem. And that's where on bigger fish like swordfish, some of the bigger tunas and stuff like that, you would get that nice gelatin in between those. On this one, obviously not huge, but it does make it a lot easier if you line it up properly. And you'll save a lot on your knife too. You're not going to ding up your knife or damage your knife as much. So like I said, you can see that cuts right through. And that's going to be our head that's going to go into a pot for some sort of fish broth. I haven't made too many tuna fish broths, but I've been craving some sort of ramen, pho, something along those lines. So we're going to do some R&D for the website and make something like that. So same deal on the fish frame. The only reason I'm cutting that in half is just so it's more manageable going into the pot. Coming back here, just trimming up the collar a little bit. There's a little bit of bloodline on there. Nothing crazy, just something that's not too appetizing. So we're going to go ahead and remove that. And on the other one, same kind of deal, just a little bit. That one looks like it's got a little bit more meat on it. Typically, unless you're really good at filleting fish, there's going to be a little bit of an offset in your fillets. So here's our first fillet taken off the top loin. The skin is still on. All of our bones are still in the center there. So we're going to come right down the right side of that bloodline, just all the way through. If you've got a real sharp knife, you might be able to do it in one swoop. Took me a couple tries there. And we've got a little bit of bloodline on there. Not the end of the world. That's something you can pretty easily remove if you're not too fond of it. If not, it's not going to kill you. It's not the end of the world. So that's going to go there. And then you've got your bottom loin with your belly piece. And same kind of deal. We're just going to come on the left side of our bloodline there. Just making sure we get all of those bones out. And the bloodline is something I may have mentioned in this video already that I'm looking to do something with. I mean, if you look at this cut, there is a good amount of meat, of good meat on there. And then there's that bloodline as well. So I'm wondering how you can marinate it, grill it. I've seen some people do some different things. It's just tough to get those bones out, especially on a smaller fish. So now I'm just going to remove the lower loin from the belly. And on a bigger tuna, you'd probably be able to get the bones out of the rib cage and maybe even take the skin off. But for this one, I'm just going to leave it all on because I'm going to marinate it and grill it, bake it. Not 100% sure what I'm going to do yet, but same kind of way I'm going to do the collars. And then that is the belly piece you're left with. And that is some of the best meat on this fish. So that's definitely something you want to hold on to. So here we are with the left fillet, same deal. We're going to come right down that bloodline. This knife I'm using is not super sharp. It has filleted probably triple-digit amounts of fish at this point. I'm not 100% sure, but it's definitely lasted a long time. Like I said, a little bit of blood on there. Depending on what you're doing with the fish, if you're doing sashimi, could give a visual appeal, maybe some extra flavor. And then same thing here as we did on the other side. Just come right down that center. Taking that bloodline off. And one other thing I'd like to stress, guys, is the importance of bleeding your fish, because even though you do see a little bit of red splatter on the cutting board here, this fish was not bled out if it wasn't gutted. It's going to be a much, much messier job. And it definitely dramatically improves the meat quality if you do those things in a timely manner after you catch the fish. I know it's sometimes hard to if the bite's on, or even if you're spearfishing, but definitely recommend taking the time to do that. So next cut here, taking off the belly. All the bones, skin, everything's going to stay right in there. It all comes off real nicely when you cook it, especially after you let it marinate for a little while. So I thought about using the knife there, but sometimes it's easier just to break out the kitchen shears and cut it off just like that. And then you're left with that belly piece. And that one there looks a little funky. Kind of fell apart a little bit, but the meat is all the same. So now we're going to talk about taking the skin off. So I like to make this cut, you'll see here, going back towards me, just to give you a little something to grip as you're running that knife down. Depending on the species of fish, for this tuna, for example, I don't usually run into too many problems cutting through, but I don't like to angle my knife down super far because you can possibly run it through. But you need to find that balance of getting as much meat off as possible without breaking through. And this tuna skin, we're actually going to crisp up. I'm going to be doing some R&D for the website. Hopefully have some recipes coming out about that soon. The nice part about Spearos Kitchen is that not only am I going to try to show you guys how to break the fish down and the different cuts and stuff like that you can use, but I also want to show you what you can do with it and have recipes that you can reference and all that good stuff. So all of that will be coming soon. We've got a couple Blackfin Tuna recipes up there right now, but in the future there definitely will be a lot more. So this one I'm just going to cut right in half just to kind of make it more manageable when it goes in the fridge. Same deal on this one. Make that cut back towards you. And then just go straight down. And what we're going to do with these skins actually is just kind of dip them in some boiling water for a little bit, just real quickly until that meat will just slide right off. And then you're left with the skin, and then we just need to dry that out for a little bit and then throw it in a deep fryer, and it's going to crisp right up almost like a pork rind. All right, so cutting that one back in half again. And then here is the bottom one, same cut. All the way down. And that's something I do with just about every species. If I'm taking the skin off, I typically will make that cut and just go right down. So that one definitely got a little closer. Didn't end up cutting through, but definitely got a little bit closer. Same thing, cut it right in half. And then this is our final piece. This one's got a little more bloodline on it than the other ones did. But same deal. Make that cut and just go straight down the skin. And this one I'm actually going to take just a little bit more of that bloodline off. Not a crazy amount. And just cut it in half, and that is pretty much it. All right, guys, so this is after the breakdown, and we're left with basically our fillets, our collars, the skin that we're going to crisp up and make into pretty much like some pork rind kind of things, and then the belly pieces, the bloodline that I'm not too certain what we're going to do with that, but I have been seeing some stuff going around that I'd like to try to do something with. We've got the meat that we've spooned off of the backbone. Honestly, this is enough to put almost make a whole sushi roll out of, so that's good. And then we've got the head, backbone, and kind of tail pieces that we're going to make some sort of broth out of. I'm not sure exactly what we're going to do yet, but you can look out for the recipes on spearoskitchen.com. So if you guys have any recipes that you'd like to submit, you can do that on the website. Make sure to like and subscribe to the channel if you like these videos, and I will see you guys on the next one.